are capitalized, all right? And so if you're looking for that. But, all right, so I'm going to take a moment and just ask this amazing couple right here some great questions. But before I do that, if maybe you're asking, Elam, how do you even know these individuals? I had the pleasure of meeting this young lady back in January, February on the Michael and Joy in the Morning show, and that's every morning, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9. Right? Power 108.9. We are going to promote our businesses while we're here, okay? And also, let me know, because maybe you might get a 10-second commercial break, all right? Because we got to make sure we support. All right. But I had an opportunity of meeting her, and even in the beginning, let's just keep it real. A lot of times when you might have somebody who is a celebrity husband or celebrity wife, whatever, you're just thinking, oh, okay, whatever. But as this person began to speak, it was an energy that she had. And so that was the first piece. And the second piece is just, outside of just being an amazing wife and mother, just from an entrepreneurial perspective, I just loved the things that she was saying, and she was extremely inspiring. And so when I was thinking about doing, and I'm going to say this real quickly, because a lot of people were like, you're doing something in Atlanta. Atlanta, y'all can be finicky, right? If you don't have the right name on the flyer, or you don't come on the right day or don't let it rain. I was hoping yesterday. I was like, ooh, yes, 30% chance. Oh Lord, but and so I just is super excited yesterday, even to see how many people were coming on board or whatever. But had a chance to just meet and talk with her on the show, and so when I thought about having an event with somebody, wasn't a better person and or couple. And I'll kind of let them explain about themselves or whatever. So that is one of the reasons why that you have Understanding a Man along with Kierra Douglas and her amazing husband as well, Mr. Harry Douglas. So let's give it up for them just being up here. And for those of you that don't know, he plays for the Tennessee Titans, so still give him some love. Okay, free agent right now. All right, so show him some love, all right? But I want to take a moment and just, because you guys have just an amazing dynamic, and those of you that don't know, Kierra is also one of the individuals on the reality TV show Wags of Atlanta, all right? And so I just want to, if you want to take a moment, just 2 or 3 minutes, because how you guys met and just the interaction between the two of you. So,
it got good.
All right.
How we met.
So how did you guys meet?
You want the real story or his story? We have different perspectives of how we met, but basically at the time, it was my first season being employed with the Atlanta Falcons, and his first season being employed with the Atlanta Falcons.
Rule breaker.
Yeah, I was a cheerleader. I was dancing professionally as a cheerleader with the Atlanta Falcons, and he was in his rookie season as a wide receiver. And we actually were at a Falcons event, similar to this format, where he was sitting up here answering questions, and I was kind of helping to navigate the audience with their responses. And someone asked a question in regards to what college he went to, and he said University of Louisville, and I said, oh my God, I knew someone that went there. And so afterwards, he came up and sparked a conversation with me. And I immediately was like, oh, okay, you went to University of Louisville. My godbrother went to University of Louisville. And I told him who he was, and he was like, no, that's your godbrother? I'm like, yeah, that's my godbrother. And so turns out he actually played football with my godbrother, and they knew each other. So literally, I think probably a minute after I left the venue, my phone rang. And it was my godbrother, and he said, immediately, my godbrother was like, hey, you just met my teammate, Harry Douglas. Oh my God, he thinks you're absolutely gorgeous. He wants to marry you, he loves you. I was like, what? I said, well, only issue is he on the team, and I'm not trying to lose my job. So, and I'm gonna we keeping it real today?
Yeah.
Okay, so I looked at him, and he wasn't my type. I'm just gonna be perfectly honest. I saw him, he had on, some Fuji or something. I don't know what it's a baggy pants with a long shirt, Fuji. I don't know what it was, but it just wasn't. At the time.
Sometimes you gotta keep the hood.
At the time.
Transformation.
Thank God. Look, he's suited and booted today. Praise Jesus. Sunday. He didn't even go to church today, and he's suited and booted. He looked good. But I immediately was like, okay, this not for me. I don't want to lose my job, and B, I don't think he's worth me losing my job because he don't look like my type. He was straight Southside Atlanta, and at the time, I was really into like the more conservative, as he calls them, church boys, square. What do you call them? SpongeBob. That was like our code. We joke with each other all the time, but he definitely wasn't my type. But like I said, my godbrother talked him up. Was like, oh my God, you're gonna love him. He's so funny. He's so down to earth. He's a really sweet guy. I think you guys would, really get along well. Of course, I'm like, okay, fine, maybe we'll talk. We didn't like each other at first.
Tell them about the first date, though.
First date, oh God. First date, he took me to Ruth Chris in his flip-flops and basketball shorts and his long white t-shirt.
What Steve they say? That's a bad man.
Yeah.
I'm sitting up here today. That's a bad man.
He took me to Ruth Chris. It was a cool dinner, but he is pretty much quite the comic relief. He's very always trying to crack jokes. So he thought it would be funny to get down on one knee and propose to me in front of the whole restaurant. And of course, everybody in the restaurant was like, "Oh my God, that is so sweet." And I'm like, "Look, I do not know this man, y'all. I don't know him like that. Like, this is our first date." And I'm like, "Can you please get up? You're embarrassing me." And of course, I looked like the rude one because I was like, "No, I'm not marrying you." And everybody, So the joke was on me, but it was foreshadowing, I guess. Because here we are today. So yeah, we didn't get along well, but we grew, we became friends, and it just really grew and blossomed from there. And I think one of the things that I was attracted to most, because clearly I told you it wasn't the way that he dressed and carried himself, was his heart, to be perfectly honest. I think as women, we all have our criteria of what we're looking for in a mate. But for me, my things were I could care less. Well, I won't say I could care less. A good job was important, but it wasn't at the top of my list. I wanted a man with a good heart, with good values, with a good foundation, and somebody who was all about family. And that's exactly what he was. And for me, that's kind of what sealed the deal. And he was hilarious, and he's cute. And it didn't hurt that he played football and had a great job, but that really, honestly, because I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, there's not enough money in the world. Because I've had other players to, approach me, and I'm like, absolutely not. I actually kind of shied away from that. There's not enough money in the world to cover up for the other stuff. Like, if you don't meet this other price, like, it's just not. I can't, there's not enough money in the world that's going to make me put up with the other things and the other things that you're not meeting. It's not a trade-off for me. But that's my side of the story. I'm afraid.
Well, that was a great story. Nah, she told it right, but I tell her this all the time. The part she didn't know was one day I was we was at the dorm rooms in the computer room, and
This was before we met.
yeah, before we met. And her godbrother was on Facebook. That's when Facebook just came out, and I seen a picture of her, and I was like, man, who is that? Can I? You say we keep it real, right?
Yeah.
I was like, damn, who is that? That's exactly what I said. Excuse me, ladies. He told me it was his god's sister, so I actually told him at that point, I was like, man, you got to put me on. You got to see what you can do. He was like, oh, no. And I understood why he said it at that time. But we still questioned his abilities, because at the time he did, I still was a little crazy at that time too. So, but I thank God though, man, because like I said, it was so many areas that I needed to grow in, and my wife helped me in those areas and helped me to become a better man. And I always say, well, I thank God for it, because I am a better person today.
Amen.
And it's crazy because I tore my ACL in 2009. A lot of people think that's bad. Yes, it was bad. I was going into about to be a great second season. But for me, it was a blessing, because it allowed me to see things from the outside in versus the inside out. And I seen how great of a woman she was, being able, sometimes, man, when you get to a certain point, it happens to all of us now. We get a little up there now. So I already think I'm the you-know-what. I really thought I was the you-know-what. But it gave me a chance to see her abilities from a different perspective, and allowed me to see different things. And that's when I knew at that time that I wanted to marry her. It's just I had some more things to crinkle and wrinkle out. You know what I mean? So but
You had to get all that out of the system, all the doggy dog ways.
a little something. We ain't talking about Snoop Dogg. But my mom is very, very religious. I've never seen my mom sin. I've never. No, seriously. Y'all think I'm joking? My mom sends me scriptures every morning, and my wife reminds me so much of my mommy, and I'm a mama's boy. So when I seen that, I was like, I already knew. And then my mom loved it. I said, oh man, I got to get right. Like, to this day, my mom take up for her before me, and I'm a mama's boy. But this is the love of my life, though, y'all. The first woman I ever loved, too.
That was good. That was good. That was good. How you did that? That's a man right there. See? We out there, ladies, okay? Don't let nobody tell you we not out there. We out here, all right? And that's absolutely amazing. Great to hear just how you guys met and things of that nature. And so, with kind of the transition, because you guys were talking about growing together and things of that nature. And so, obviously, different hectic schedules or whatever. So let's talk just real quickly, Kierra, about some of the things that you're doing outside of just mommy and wife or whatever case it be. What are some of those other mommypreneur things that you're doing right now?
Oh God, I have a lot. Like you said, it's extremely hard just to juggle. Having a 2-year-old is enough. She's quite the handful. She has her father's personality. And then he is a job in himself, as you guys can see. He's quite the character. And his busy and hectic schedule with him, just the last couple of years being in Nashville and having to go back and forth. Because I do own several businesses here in Atlanta. I actually have a clothing boutique. It's called Closet Couture. I actually just closed my location down in Arbor Place Mall. We're in the middle of moving and rebranding. And then I also have a dance studio in Douglasville, Georgia called Just Dance Studio that I co-own with my mom and my sister. And then we also have a talent agency for kids. That's kind of another branch of the studio that we work as a family on. And then most recently, my sister and I were featured on WAG's Atlanta, and so we, had another business venture we had kind of been sitting on for a while, and we were like, okay, now's the time to really push it while we have this platform. Let's just do it. So it's called S2, and it's basically just stands for sisterhood, and that's not necessarily just blood sisters, but just women in general as a sisterhood. And we do blogging, we do different networking events. And we actually have a clothing line of athletic wear and dance wear that's coming out in a few months. So look out for that. So yeah, I'm really, really busy. It's hard, I'm not gonna lie. There are some days that are great, some days that are bad. I will say what makes it work for us and what makes it easy is that he's my biggest supporter. Y'all see he here today? Look at him.
Tell him I was supposed to be in Oakland that game too.
Yeah. He's my biggest supporter. Even with his hectic schedule, he always finds a way, even if he's supporting me from afar. And he allows me to do me. And that's something I really appreciate and something that I'm, was really happy when I married him, that there are a lot of times you see the wives of athletes or wives of other celebs, and it's kind of like they just want you to sit there and look cute. And it's like, well, what about me? What about my dreams and aspirations? Or what about my career goals? What about what I want to do? And it's almost like you kind of have to take a back seat to them because, at the end of the day, he is the breadwinner of the family. And his, job is really important. But I'm just very thankful, that he knows the woman that I am. Like, my thing was, when you met me, I had a business. I opened my first business at 20. I was still in college working on my second degree. And I opened the dance studio with my mom. And so that was my thing. Like, okay, we're getting married now. There were some things that we were able to compromise and kind of trade off on. At the time, like I said, I was dancing professionally. I transitioned from the Falcons to the Hawks. So I was dancing as a Hawks cheerleader, in addition to doing like background dancing for several, like artists and stuff like that. So for me, it was really all about compromise and just sitting down and mapping out what it would look like us growing and moving to the next level of getting married. So one of the things that we, sat down and I was like, look, I'm willing to kind of, compromise and give up a little bit, but at the end of the day, what makes me me is the fact I'm very independent and I have my own, and dance is a big part of my life. So I, was able to compromise and kind of say, okay, well, professional cheerleading is not, it's something that I love to do, but it's more of a hobby. It's not a career. It's not, it's something that I can live without. So we were able to sit down and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to retire at the end of this season. So after we got married, I didn't go back to doing that, but I did keep my dance studio because that, again, I feel like everybody has their why in life. And for me, that's my why and that's my purpose. So I'm just very thankful for that he was able to be like, okay, well, you have your own thing going on. You have your own businesses. I love that about you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to continue to support you to do that. So that was one thing I think that helps with our relationship, and the fact that he understands my busy schedule. Like, literally, this man right here does his own laundry. He will wash dishes. He will cook. He will clean.
Man,
He will clean. Literally, and I don't even have to
I
ask.
just clean the toilet. You gotta get on the knees. You gotta get behind the toilet.
Well, I don't do all
Clean the
that.
stove. You gotta take the little hours off the stove.
Take the eyes off.
Okay, yeah, he's real old school, and his mama taught him how to clean real good. He cleans actually probably better than I do. But I'm just really thankful that I had that. You know what I mean? I don't have to ask him. He understands my busy schedule. Some days are better than others where he'll be like, so you gonna cook some dinner tonight or what? It's been a while. You gonna cook? But for the most part, he's incredibly understanding and he's very, very, very supportive. And I'm very thankful for that he understood that, part of me being who I am was me pursuing my dreams and my career ambitions.
Let's give it up to like he even knew the eyes on the stove. See, that's some inside stuff. See, if you don't know about picking off the eyes of the stove, you don't know how to clean. Okay, let's just throw that out there right now. All right, but one of the things I do want to highlight that she dropped some nuggets just then on the loaded. I don't know if you guys were paying attention because she walked into this marriage with her own identity, and let's take out the celebrity status of this. I want those of you who are in this room that are unmarried, I want you to understand something. If you have not found yourself and your own identity and your own purpose, back away from even talking about a relationship right now. Okay? Because if you don't find yourself first before you walk into the relationship, you're doing not only yourself, but your significant other a disservice. Okay, that's why you'll see me say with the hashtag find her, keep him. Because for ladies who are out here, I know you guys struggle a little bit more than men of color when it comes to finding somebody. Let's just keep it real, right? If you don't find yourself first, you can't keep him. You can't. Okay, and so let's fast forward. This is what it looks like down the road. Okay, down the road, what it will look like, and the things that I hear coming when I'm speaking with people is that when that phrase comes out when you're in your 40s, right, which is the time frame where they say that most women go into that portion called "I'm not happy." Because why? Your children aren't gone yet, but they still around, right? Okay, you in this rat race career thing because you didn't find your purpose yet, so you're rat racing. So you mad right now. 6 o'clock tonight, on average, people start getting mad. Okay, no, this is psychological. Okay, you start getting mad at 6 o'clock. Arguments start popping off for no reason. Okay, Monday morning at 9 o'clock is the highest heart attack time in this country. Do the research. Okay, why? Because you have not found yourself, you're rat racing, you got the kids, now your parents on average start becoming, somebody that you have to more care for. So you got the job, you got the kids, you got the husband, and you got the life that you really don't want pulling at you. Why? Because way back when somebody said you can do what you want to do and be who you want to be, and you were just like, let me chase this money, or let me chase this type of guy, or let me do this, and you never found yourself. And then you turn around and you start talking about that you're not happy. Okay? Quick nugget for you, right? It is not your significant other and definitely not your spouse's responsibility to make you happy. That's your job. It is their responsibility to compliment your happy. They can only compliment it when you know what it is.
Hello.
So Kierra knew what hers was. So she was able to look at him and say, okay, yeah, he did that, but nah, because this is what I'm looking for right here. Okay, and then at particular points of time, things got fit into equations or whatever, and then they ended up working out. That's how it works. Okay, all that, you can Match.com all you want to. Okay, all right, you can do that all you want. You can dress a certain type of way. I always like to say there's a friend of mine that, you know, she had broke up with whomever, and she said, okay, I'm going to go to this event, right? And it was like a polo event, right? And she was like, I'm going to find some affluent men. I'm like, you don't even know the rules of polo. Like, what are you doing? You think you're going to find that type of man there? No. And then she's still single, all right? And that was like 4 years ago. And you know, look, let me share something with you, okay? Let's go to the flip side, because just because those of you who are unmarried in here, let's go to the other side, because some of us married folks sometimes think that we're like on a higher status than you, right? And don't get it twisted. There are plenty of people who are unhappily married, and they're just staying on in that thing, right? So, and why does some of that happen? Because they didn't figure out who they were first. So I commend you, Kierra, for just, you know, because let me say this real quickly. The coaches of a relationship is the woman, period. Okay, yeah, we have our responsibility too, but if you want to put intimate relationship in the hands of a man, like, good luck with that. Like, we're not good with that, right? So you have to understand that if you get yourself together first, that allows that other person, the law of attraction will bring that right person to you. So if it hasn't happened to you yet, it's okay. Doesn't make you a bad person, because there's plenty of us out here who are walking around grown, and we think that, you know what we're doing and we don't. So I want to encourage people. Thank you again, Kierra, for dropping just that nugget. And I want to take a moment, those of you who have not, in about a couple of minutes, we're going to go into the panel discussion portion. All right, it's going to be, all right. So what that comes from is that your questions. All right. So if you haven't, is Celine? This is Celine. Now let's give it up for Celine. She rocking. All right. And so she has the card. So if anybody hasn't filled out a card yet, just raise your hand real quick, like in church. Right? Y'all did this at 12. Raise your hand for the envelope. All right. And someone will come around to you. If you don't know what that means, then you also have some work to do. Okay. All right. So, and we're going to just ask everybody as many questions as we can anonymously in a moment. So I'm going to bring the men on board for that. But before we go, I want to just give you guys both a moment, because they say that when you're single, you can be independent, right? But when you're married, one of the best qualities to have is humility. All right, so, and whether that is the quality that you want to speak on or whatever case it be, if you just wanted to leave a parting nugget for my unmarried ladies, because you've been there, and then also on the married side, give it, you know, just drop one or two nuggets on us that we can kind of walk away with from Kierra.
Wow, okay. That was a lot. That was a lot.
Single, married.
Okay, I would have to say for my single ladies, and I tell this to my sister all the time, because my sister, I thought she was going to be here today, but she's out of town. Well, she's not single. Actually, she has a boyfriend now. That's right. Sorry, don't tell her I said that, y'all. She's single, though.
That's what Grandma told me too.
I tell her that, too, but she gets offended. She gets offended when I say that. But I said, if you don't got a ring, then you still consider single. Okay, anyways. And I tell her this all the time. My thing with her is, like, don't look for Mr. Right now. You're looking for Mr. Right, and not necessarily Mr. Right now. And sometimes what you perceive as Mr. Right is not necessarily what you need. So really just having that long-term vision of knowing what it is that you want, but also what you need and what's compatible with you and where you're going. And like you said before, knowing who you are. You have to know who you are before you can know what you even want or need. If you don't know who you are, then how will you know what you want or you need? So that's something that I tell her all the time. And then just as far as for my married ladies, I mean, but this is something that people say all the time, but it's so true. Communication is key. Communication and compromise, like I said before, especially with us and our busy schedules and everything that we have going on. That's something, like, we wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for that.
I'll say for the single ladies, or men, either or, but everything starts with along what he was saying is knowing your purpose. But you gotta have a vision though. You gotta vision things. You gotta see things happening before it happens. You gotta speak positive to yourself. Have positive people around you And this one thing I use for business. I like being around people who are better than me, because it's hard for me to get better if I'm not around people who's better. I'm gonna be doing the same old things that I was doing last year or the year before. So I surround myself, and I meet new people all the time, millionaires, billionaires, and even my friends I grew up with. It's things that they helped me with. My pastor, it's things that he helped me with, relationship wise. Or he'll be the first to tell you, no, that's wrong. That's weak as a man. You know what I mean? He'd be the first to tell me, and I love them for that, because it allows me to grow as a man. And for you ladies, man, just have respect for yourself. I know this generation that we have coming in now is different. So it's hard for, and I'm speaking from a man's perspective, it's hard for a man to have respect for you if you don't have respect for yourself. You have to show him that, and you have to teach a man how to love you. Because I'm gonna tell you this now.
Yes.
We don't know.
Come on.
We don't know. Y'all gotta help us out and let us know and show us the way, because. And I grew up with a great mother and a great father, so I've seen a lot of things. But it's a lot of things that she had to help me with and tell me, because if it was just on my end, I wouldn't know. As men, we do not know. And especially if you don't be scared to speak up and let a guy know. And if he doesn't want to listen to you or understand you, then you need to keep it moving. So that's all I have to tell y'all.
That's good.
Ooh, let's give it up for the Nuggets, y'all. Y'all ain't know they was gonna be like that, now did y'all? It was great. Well, first of all, thank you so much just for the information that you guys have shared. I want to highlight, again, something that Kierra said, and Harry echoed it as well, just so that you know, the top 3 reasons why there is divorce is infidelity is number 1, finances are number 2. Hold on. So you know everybody that say that money isn't everything? Like, yeah, that sounds good. But it ranks up there with like oxygen and talking. Like you pass the salt wrong when you ain't got no money. Our argument can just pop off for no reason. All right. But infidelity is number 1, finance is number 2, and communication is number 3. And communication and infidelity bounce back and forth between number 1. So, you know, sometimes it's number 1, sometimes it's number 3. So the point to the matter is that you have to have that level of communication. I know I've seen this meme before, that you have to understand when when y'all two stop talking, this conversation's still going on. It's just not with you. And that's one thing that you have to understand from communication. But no, I mean, look, I'm about as real as they come. I ain't not saying this is, look, we grown in here. And let me just share this with you, because you know when things happen in these streets, right? We're quick to want to hashtag, you know, whose lives matter or whatever case to be, and then or get on and put a post up, whatever case to be. But let me explain something to you. If we're gonna get us right, we got to get these families right, right? And if we the number 1 way of getting these families right, okay, let me throw this out there, not against anybody's preferences. But I speak towards, you know, man and woman together in a home, right? Nothing against anybody, no disrespect, right? So, you know, when we're having some of these men removed out of these homes because of lack of communication, because of the infidelity, because of the finance, whatever case to be, let me tell you something. Infidelity is cheating, right? Okay, cheating is a symptom of a problem. It's never the reason why y'all broke up. Right. So that means something was identified in it that y'all missed. The only thing you saw was the end result was the people sleeping together. That was the end result. Okay, and that's one of the things that the men talk about, and that's chapter 10, is why do men cheat? Not pardoning it, not saying it's okay, but I'm saying long before that happened, something popped up that y'all chose to overlook, right? So in order for us to kind of knock some of these things down, we have to get these families right. In order to get these families right, we have to get this communication right. In order to get the communication right, we got to have forums like this that just say, hey, look, you're not the only person going through this situation, all right? And this is how we can walk through this together, right? Because you're not the only person with that problem, right? Okay, and so that's one of the reasons why that we're even having this forum today. So I want to thank you guys again. Let's give it up again for Kierra and Harry Douglas. Kierra, if you could rest here. Mr. Harry Douglas, if you could rest over there. And we're going to bring the photo. Oh, hold on. We got a photo up. So hold on, y'all. And as that's happening.
Elam.
Hold on.
Come on, guys.
Thank you. You know,
All right, so we're about to have some fun up in here. You can see it right there. No, you can see it. Right. All right, so at this point, where's Celine at? Celine with the bucket of questions. All right, we're gonna go. Look, I'm gonna give y'all about 2 more minutes to write down your favorite question. All right, if anybody has to
Can
go
I say
through.
something real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
Should nobody leave out of here without asking a question?
right.
That's real. We're gonna try to get to all of them for real. We're gonna definitely try to get to all of them. And again, going into that, today is for a purpose, and I'm excited for the next thing I'm gonna do because. Okay, I'm gonna give y'all 2 minutes to write your question down. 2 minutes.
Oh, damn.
Is Celine over there? Celine, do you have the bucket, the bowl? Questions, questiones. Oh, that's over there. Okay. She's gonna go around with the offering plate. Excuse me, around with the offering bowl. You gotta offer up your question.
Anybody else have a question?
Anybody else? Uppity Atlanta people don't. You got a question? Okay, you want to write it down? Write it down.
I do.
Hold on. We didn't open it to the floor yet. See, that's my god baby mama, so she get away with asking, doing what she wants. Yeah, there'll be some floor. Ooh, all right, gentlemen, it's gonna open up to the floor
Unless you have
afterwards.
a direct question for one of us, but yeah.
All right. So, anybody else? Questions? And then we can still do that throughout hand or whatever. But this is the part that's kind of fun for me. I have a chance of just bringing up some of our men's panel. All right, men's panel. All right, gotta watch how I say that in the men's. All right. So, and in no particular. Oh, okay. That's good. Okay. So in no particular order, I'm going to bring up these individuals. Each one of them has divinely been put into my path, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But so the first individual I'll bring up, standing there on the gangster lean on the corner of the bar over there. Let me tell y'all, ladies and gentlemen, he's gone from not only Atlanta's own, one of the dopest realtors around or whatever. Had a chance to meet this person way back in like 07, 08. He is a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, all right? And so he actually has one of the biggest email distros in Atlanta. So those of you who are having events forthcoming, you definitely want to make sure you get at him. And if you're looking to buy a house, you definitely want to holler at him as well. Okay, all right. He'll have his commercial break in a second. Let's give it for Mr. Jimmy Jones. Come on up here. All right.
My brother.
All right. And I guess, all right. Well, next on the corner. All right. So I've had a chance of knowing this gentleman since 1998. Also a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi. I had the chance to bring him on board, and so he actually went to Hampton University as well. He lives I believe they live on the south side of Atlanta, but he has an amazing bookstore. To him and his wonderful wife just went to the restroom, and talk about a power couple. And so, a couple of years ago, they just started doing some amazing things, have a children's bookstore and books that look like you for your children. Okay, so and let me just share this with you real quickly. You need to sow into somebody's business before you leave about here.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, whether it's a book, whether it's something, all right, and that's actually how you will advance yourself, all right. So little nuggets every now and then. So everybody knows somebody who's got a kid or you got a kid, so just make sure you get with them, all right. Let's bring up Mr. Omar Finley, all right. All right, so and next, you know what? We're just gonna keep it rolling. Now, this individual, I actually really got a chance to just first meet him on Friday, but we've talked over the past month or two or whatever. I got a chance to connect with him from somebody else or whatever, because I was looking for, in the beginning, Harry was supposed to be on the panel, and so there was but then he was busy, so it was like 2 or 3 more people I was looking for. So as time was going on, I had a chance to run into this individual. So he's an amazing person. He's actually from the show The Quad, all right? and just did a dope interview on Friday. He'll probably release that. Y'all see him in a movie real soon down the road, all right? But let's give it up. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the only person that can really say that he lives the savage life, because his last name is Savage. Let's give it up to Mr. Kevin Savage. All right. All right. That's dope. We got Savage is yours.
already.
All right. And single. He's single, ladies. All right. So, all right. Jimmy, single. All right. Single. All right. See, ladies, I helped you out a little bit. We ain't all married. I got 3 married, 3 unmarried. All right.
Thank you.
So, all right. All right. And so the next person to bring up, had a chance to just know this person for the past couple of years. You know, has an amazing show in conjunction with Miss Joy up here, who you see, you know, doing her thing right here, right? But this person, just from the very first time that I met him, you just know, like, you know, they just say, like, puppies and babies know good people. Like, you got that little sign inside of you, like, this is a good person. So he's always been rocking and rolling, been married for, like, about 20 years, whatever case may be, and 24 years, all right? Get it right, all right? Military man, so let's give it up for him as well on that, Mr. Michael McFadden. All right, and I think it's King. Is King over there? He over there? Okay. All right. So this last person. Again, like I said, people have just been divinely put into my life, whatever case it be. About a month or 2 ago, I had a chance to just meet this person. Actually, via DM, I got introduced to him because the person was like, "Hey, this is somebody that you definitely need to connect with." And so let me stop real quick, okay? Real quick. Let me just let y'all know something. When you begin to walk in your purpose, your resources show up. Okay? You don't have to go search for them. They show up. I know y'all was there at 12 o'clock today, but you're going to get a little bit of it tonight too. All right? So your resources show up. Whereas to the point where once we just started, you know, chit-chatting, I'm like, man, this guy is dope. You know, I mean, motivational speaker, working with these kids, definitely with somebody that you want to follow or whatever case it be. And so every time he's like, man, King, and I'm like, he always called me King, and I call him King or whatever. So let's give it up to Mr. King J. Barnett, all the way from Houston. Okay, flew in town for this event. That's dope. I just met this man. You see what I'm saying? How resources show up. All right, got people up the block that don't want to show up. All right, but that was the right people. Hello, when the right people, when the person doesn't show up, they're not the right person. All right. So single ladies. All right. I got you 3, right? I did good, ladies. I did good. All right. Okay. All right. So these are the rules. I got to put rules on this thing now. All right. So. Got some questions that are over here that we're going to ask at random, all right? So we got some questions over here, and then we're going to kind of throw it out to... we got one more question. Pass it on up, you know, like the offering again. Here comes. Pass the offering up. Coming on in there, all right. So, all right. So let's just make sure everybody respects everybody in here when we're answering these questions, because it gets turned up after a while. I don't know. That last one I did in Houston, it was crazy. Okay. So what we're gonna do is just be respectful, answer some questions, and then afterwards, if there's any more points that we're gonna make, we'll do that thereafter. But we'll just let Kierra pull the first question. All right, and some of them are long. These long. Okay, all right. Whoa! All right, well, y'all jumping right in immediately. All right, so watch this. All right, so we'll throw this to the anybody, but we'll just particularly probably maybe the married men want to speak towards this. Or anybody could. Okay. Maybe not the married men. I know. I just set everybody up. Okay. So
help them out, Kierra.
Why do men stay in committed relationships and cheat if they aren't happy at home? Now, I want to throw it out to my married men in the room. In answer, as I'm saying, it came out the gate. In answering the question, it doesn't make you an expert in answering it. You are just answering for a friend, okay? Anybody want to take that? So, why do men stay in committed relationships and cheat if they aren't happy at home? So that's whether you're married or unmarried. All right. So answers come from up here. Yeah, I told y'all I was gonna get wild. So, gentlemen.
All right. How y'all doing? My name is Jimmy the Realtor, and I will not be out of work.
That's his moniker.
I'm a divorced man. We all have our things that we are not proud of in our past, but we learn that's the only way you can get better. Will I get married again? Sure. I am looking forward to one day again getting married. But there was a point. Chris Rock has a movie. It's called I Think I Love My Wife, and in the movie, he says you take the number of years that you were married and you divide it by 2, and that's how long you were breaking up. So every marriage goes to a point where y'all breaking up. And when you're breaking up, it gets ugly. You know what I mean? It gets ugly. I mean, you start entertaining, somebody, at your job or something, so you start entertaining dates and things of that nature. So, there are reasons why men, and exactly what Elam said earlier, he said nobody cheats because ain't nothing going wrong in the relationship. There's something that triggered, there's some attention to detail that has been overlooked where now, if they're not communicating with you, like you said, they communicate with someone, some listening ears, some woman that knows you are married and is just there to listen. And I'm in the event business. I'm in the party promotions business as well. I own TonightAtlanta.com. We're the largest email marketing company for parties in Atlanta and events. Small businesses have over 80,000 email subscribers. I'm in these streets. Okay, but it's my business too. I'm a person that has always been social. But in answer to the question, why does a man stay in a committed relationship, and cheat at the same time? It's because most of the time there's a lot of women out here that will allow that.
Wow.
I mean, most side chicks are weak-minded. Wow. Most side chicks are to a point to where they could care less whether you're married or not. They just want to see you happy. So everybody's looking for happiness. And no matter what that looks like, if you're not providing happiness to your man, trust me, there's some chick out here that, goes to church, good, she's a nice lady, she ain't no thought.
But
He was about to go into overdrive. That next comment was going to be a doozy. But anybody else want to comment on that? Anybody, gentlemen? Is it? Okay. And to throw down there what Kierra was just saying, just more clarification. She's saying, okay, if there's a problem, right? Why are you staying in there? Why don't you just rock on and
fix the problem, like work out the problem.
So,
I think that's why they wrote, if there's issues at home, like you should work on the problem. So what we want to know is, does cheating, do you guys feel like that's solving the problem, or is it just because you have so much going on and you're tempted? Like, what is?
come on, Omar. Come on, Omar.
So I was gonna leave this one alone. So I was gonna leave this one alone. So I'm Omar Finley. Own a children's bookstore, Listening Tree Books. We're a children's bookstore that take care of black children, right? But so what Kierra was saying and what you guys are talking about, I think is the issue is stubbornness. somebody in the relationship somewhere has decided that it's going to be my way or the highway.
That's good.
And so the problem is not being addressed, and that person now is in jeopardy of different things. So what the real issue is that, like you said, the problem's not being fixed, but in truth, a guy does that because I would say because he hasn't really, kind of like what Elam said, he hasn't really found himself, and he's looking for himself in another woman, right? And two, because he thinks that doing that will satisfy something and maybe make her feel bad, but in truth, he's bringing himself to a bad place. You see, so that would be my perspective on it as a married man. You
Hey guys, I don't have a plug yet because I don't have a business yet, but it's coming. It's coming. Right, I'm on business. To piggyback off of what Elam said and Omar, I think it's a man finding himself, because there are women who have not found themselves, but then there are a lot of men who have not found themselves, and that's where the whole cheating comes in at. But also, I mean, just to keep it simple and straight, I mean, you know, you can be in a relationship and get comfortable, right? And you can develop feelings. That person may not be the person for you, but it doesn't mean you want to go anywhere because it's comfortable. You're in a comfortable situation, you're coming home, she's cooking for you, all of these things. And so, and it's women that do the same thing. So it's not just men. It's women that
This
just
a
keep it
man
easy.
panel.
We kind of next. So, you know, it's just finding yourselves, but you know, I think it goes on, you know, both sides too.
Come on, Mike.
Real joy.
My bad. Come on, Mike.
So we talked about it on the show last week. I saw a special on Netflix, and it said, "Love is a feeling, monogamy is a rule." So now when you get into a relationship, whether you're boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, you know, y'all kicking it, significant other, monogamy is something that you want to do. So if you're a rule breaker from the beginning, you're going to break that rule at some point. Because with monogamy, when you look at marriage, what, 50-60% of marriages end in divorce. And Elam talked about it. When it comes to infidelity, that's one of the biggest things. So what happened was you broke that rule. You weren't supposed to sleep with somebody else. So when you look at a marriage, like myself, my wife and I, we have been together we're going on our 22nd year of marriage. I got married when I was 8 years old. It was ridiculous. It was super duper illegal. But I got married early, and the crazy thing about it was you get to a point where you no longer want to break the rule of monogamy. Now, I'm sure we're going to talk about it later, how you have to handle the marriage after 5-7 years. You hit a 7-year itch, blah, blah, blah. But when you think about monogamy is just a rule. Do you want to follow the rules? Because if you don't need to make that commitment.
Yes, that's right.
All right. Hey, that's not bad to first jump in, right? That wasn't too bad, right? And I want to discuss this really quickly, and you know, shameless plug. But one of the things that stems this entire conversation is that there's a manual that I wrote, and you'll hear me call it a manual. It's not a book. It's called Understanding a Man. And let me just kind of give you a little background about it. See, two years ago, my lovely wife, right? Let's give it up for my wife, y'all. She's right there. We couldn't get started without her, all right? And there's so many of my events that I have, and I don't have a chance of having her around because, so it means a lot for me to have her there. Little nugget I just dropped on y'all. I'll come back to that one. But because I'm normally out of state, and so, you know, for her to be here today means a lot. And so, it means a lot. So, But 2 years ago, we were actually traveling to a wife. Shout out to Wife Ability. I see. But 2 years ago, Adrian Ebel was actually having a conference in Florida, and so we drove down there. It's a 7-8 hour drive, and so great conversation that we were having on the way down there. And I said, I'm going to write a book. And her comment back to me was, "Well, your head is big enough. You got enough knowledge up there, right?" And that was it. Conversation was over, right? When we get there, dropped off our stuff, and then we went to the vendors. The first vendor that she walked up to, she picked up the card, and it was basically the desk was blank. Okay, and so she was just like, "What do you do?" And she said, "I'm a book coach." And she looked at me like this, and I was just like, "Wow." Had no idea, no concept of what I was even going to write a book on, right? And so, the next day, because it was really there for her, I was just there to be on a panel, just like this, right? It was like 5 of us, and 4 married, 1 was divorced or whatever, and it was for an hour, between 2 and 3 o'clock, and they'll tell you, we all ate together, and we ate all the starches and the bread, and everything that would put you to sleep is what we ate, right? So we ate that together. So it started at 1, 2 o'clock, and there was 100 women in the room, at least, right? And the mean age was probably like 40, 45. And so we were asking questions, and they were asking questions, and we were answering them. And at the end of that hour, the women were on the edge of their seats. Well, nobody sleep. And so they were like, no, Adrian, let's keep going. But she had more of the conference to do, so we had to shut that down. And so I was looking around the room, and I was just like, well, y'all about 40, 45, y'all should understand us. I don't understand. And that was literally the catalyst of where this whole entire manual came from, because what I did was I interviewed 24 men that look like this, okay, from great backgrounds, okay. I took out the mama's boys and the boys in the streets and stuff. I put the progressively moving forward men, and I said, okay, because we're not the ones that talk. We talk to each other. We'll talk at the game tonight about who got on our nerves, but we won't tell you how it matters of the heart, because we're so built to be so strong out there that when we come in here, we actually don't even, and I think Jimmy or King, somebody said it up here, whereas we're not used to expressing ourselves. So when we feel some kind of way, we're like, wait a minute, I feel this kind of way. We might tell our homeboy, or we might go back out in them streets and go do it wrong. And that's why, from a coaching perspective, the things that you have inside of you to help pull that out, to help bring that out, because a lot of times, you know how when y'all be like, man, why is he so sensitive to you? Hold on. You made us love you. Because here's the thing, out there, let's bar today, right? If I'm in the street and Harry cussed me out, I'm like, whatever, dude. Right. Don't matter. Because I'm built to be tough out there. But in here, I'm like a cowering little boy to you. Straight up. So that's why I'm so sensitive. So that's why your words matter so much. Okay? When men listen to the things women say, women watch the things men do. So that's why you have to understand why we as men, we are hanging on your every word. Okay? Words of affirmation is one of the love languages. So if you with a man that's words of affirmation, everything you say is sensitive. If you don't want that, don't sign up for that relationship. Okay? You have a choice of not to. All right? But so just so that you guys can understand where this entire panel came from, the goal of this is to help you to understand. So what I did was I asked different questions to 24 men. It's 24 men, 15 chapters of things that they would want their daughters to know in order for them to have a lasting relationship. That's why it's called, Understanding a Man, Empowering Women with the Tools for Lasting Relationships. Because it's not just about getting them, because everybody in this room look good. Y'all some good looking women, right? Getting a man and keeping one are 2 different things. And you have to understand that the only common denominator between you and your last few relationships that did not work is you. There's 3.5 billion men on the planet. Oh, you just keep picking the wrong ones? Are we all cheat? Are we all mamas? No, 3.5 billion. You got to take some responsibility in that regard. And this is not a misogynistic book. It's not about telling you, women, y'all didn't need to do this. No, it's just more of just giving you some levels of enhancement, because at the end of the day, we're trying to help in our community to kind of keep these families together. Does that make sense? Yes. So that's just to give you a little background. It's $15. We'll be right over here. Kierra got it back in like January, February. She sold into me. You know.
Very good.
So let's just go into the next question.
I don't know, I didn't read that.
Oh, you didn't read this one? Okay. All right. Oh, man.
No more.
When one says communication is key, what does that truly mean? Answer without being cliche. So, is that basically saying like, what do you really, okay, you know what, we can expand upon that, right? So when we say communication, they basically, is that what it looks like? When they're saying communication, what do they really mean? Is that what that person's probably saying? Like, what is communication?
Like, why is communication key? Like, what do you really mean by saying that communication is key in your relationship?
Okay.
All right, listeningtreebooks.com. So now, I'll be honest. You say don't be cliche, right? It's very simple. Turn yourself off and listen to the other person. That's communication. Turn yourself off. Don't try to satisfy nothing. One of the biggest things that I've seen, and my wife's sitting right here. She can raise her hand. Right, this Kimberly, right? I'm in love. We just finished 13 years. I mean, we just finished our anniversary, 13 years of marriage, and so I'm speaking honestly to you, right? And I'm gonna tell you honestly is one of the biggest things that you see is when you try to go tit for tat, right? You're trying your best to try and say, okay, well, you did this and I did this. And what happens is nobody's issue gets answered.
Right.
So both people walk away upset. If you follow me? And so the issue is if you can satisfy somebody, they can come back and satisfy you. But you gotta have faith in that human being.
That's good.
You follow? I'm trying to get it out, but this is not cliche. And to me, right, because I'm a man, I'm telling you straight, my wife's sitting right here. In general, women go tit for tat. Women decide. Women say. I'm coming straight.
Look at you.
I'm coming straight. At the end of the day, a man really wants to listen to you. He wants to satisfy you. He wants to take you to that next level. But unless you turn it off a little bit and say something to him that he can hear, then he never hears what you're saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
You see what I'm saying? And then what happens is he's unhappy, you unhappy, and then you're wondering what's going on. What's going on is you done decided that you want it to be your way, and he like, yo, I don't know what you want.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And that's the issue. And whatever your way is, you haven't communicated that, and that's the issue. And so let me make it simple. Turn yourself off. Listen to what somebody's saying to you. Satisfy what they're saying to you. And then as soon as you satisfy what they're saying to you, I guarantee you that person is going to satisfy everything you say next.
That's good, Omar.
Everything.
That's right.
And that was my question.
Communication is understanding, right? I think was it SWV or or the state, was it the state? It's right. It's understanding, right? And then they talk about communication, right? So when you communicate, you understand. But one of the things that I noticed, and so I was in another panel and I was the only single guy. And I was notorious for saying that I enjoy just being single and dating, right? Women hear things and they interpret it the way they want to. So when Omar said what he just said, there was I saw the reaction of women. And I'm not going to even point out which ones, but I'm just saying. But instead of listening to what Omar was saying and taking it in, there was reaction first before you guys allowed it to penetrate, understand, and then communicate. Right? So there has to be a situation in which you come to an understanding and saying, listen, you know what? Like Omar said, just listen. Let me think about what you just said. Right? Before I just jump off the handle. Because then if you really listen and think about it, you know what? Maybe I do kind of, fly off real quickly. Or maybe I do this, maybe I do that. Maybe you do the same thing, but we're not talking about you right now. We're talking about, you know what I mean? So I think it's really important to really, really, really take your time and let it process and then respond. So,
That was good.
So when you have been in the game 2+ decades, my motto is this: it's all in how you present the communication, because that's what happens. We don't say it, what you feel on the inside when it comes out is not the way you projected it to come out in your head. So you definitely have to present it right. Because when I agreed with Elam to do the panel on Sunday, during this time when I had to sell it to my wife, because this is our time. Like, Sunday is my free day and I had to sell it to her. I had to find a way to present it in a way that she would understand. Understand the man. MDKing.com. I'm a radio guy. I do this all the time. So when I had to present it to her, the one thing, I worked about a good 30 minutes on a presentation before I got it together. And I said, did you know that Harry Douglas will be in the building? He was drafted in 2008 with Matt Ryan. And I'm a huge Atlanta Falcon fan. How can you not let me go to this event tonight? And I'm here, and it works. And it's all how you present it. That's what communication called.
I gotta go after that. Wow. Thanks, Mike. I am JimmyTheRealtor.com. So this is my this is how I look at communication. My best relationship that I've ever had with a woman was where I was not afraid to tell the truth. A lot of times women like to crucify a man for things. Case in point, when I did something wrong, I ain't gonna say what I did, because y'all already judging me for the first thing I said. I'm actually a great guy. I'm actually a serial monogamist. Like, I really only deal with one woman at a time. And there may be a little overlap in between situations. But I mean, anybody out here worth having has somebody in their life. And when you go from one to the, it ain't just, oh, I hate you. Okay, I like you. No, there's a little flow, okay? But my best relationship I've ever been in, the girl, I lied about something, and she said, Jimmy, just tell me the truth. I said, she said, just tell me the truth. I said, and I told her, she said, thank you. She was like, I just don't want to be looking stupid out here. I just want you to tell me the truth. You know what I mean? And a lot of men, they don't want to tell the truth because they are not in a relationship where the communication is just where no matter whether it's good, bad, whether it's something ugly, tell me, just tell me. And then that trust is there. And that's where every relationship is built on, that trust.
That's true. That's right.
I thought I was going to get a clap, but shit.
I'm trying to slow it down a bit.
So, to respond to all of these guys, as a therapist, I'm a therapist by trade, as a former pro athlete, but mainly focused on dealing with a lot of family therapy and children. A lot of time, a lot of the systems on how we communicate are dysfunctional, because a lot of us have learned how to function in dysfunction. So a lot of times how we communicate was learned behavior from previous systems, either from our home. So many times we are already out the gate have a very negative perspective and a very warped process on how we communicate. Many times that's yelling, many times that's clapping. And so, and I can be honest, is from all of us, I can tell you this, it's hard for a man to communicate in a space that he doesn't trust. And it's hard for him to be open and be vulnerable when that space does not render him the security of knowing that if you're really honest with me, I'm going to embrace that and not judge it.
Amen. That's good.
And when we feel like that space is going to be judged, as he said, if we feel like that space is not going to be welcoming, we won't open up. And so what happened is it's hard for us to really communicate because, for one, many of us, especially these men, we're very progressive, and I know for myself is that I can express myself. I'm a writer, so I don't have an issue with that. But what I have seen is that a woman that has not had a man to be expressive, it's very difficult for her to receive that because we challenge your perspective. And when your perspective is challenged, many times you have to see outside of yourself. Meaning that I have a mirror that you have to look at and says, it doesn't mean that your way is right, wrong, or indifferent, but just getting you to understand it. And so to really understand a man and to really understand how communication works is one, we all, especially, and I know this from being the only boy in my family with my mom and sisters, is I have to often tell my mother, you have to stop communicating as if you're on a conveyor belt, as if you're waiting to respond. So you have to communicate to beyond seeking to be heard, seek to understand. Because once you have the understanding, it allows you to be able to navigate through whatever that issue is. Because if you can't navigate through that issue and you have not communicated effectively, we don't move progressively. And so what happened is, that's why it's easy for a man to go out and create another situation, because from this situation, I can just give myself physically, I don't have to communicate. And so any way that I don't feel like I can be emotionally accepted, I just physically present what I have.
Okay. Dropping nuggets, y'all. Unmarried ladies is unmarried. Okay. All right. And somebody also said something when it comes to communication is that this is what happens when you're speaking with somebody. There's actually a four-way conversation that's going on. Okay, watch this. It's what you said, and it's what they heard. It's what you meant, and what they actually received.
Right.
So when you're saying something, there's 3 other ways they can get that thing wrong. And so that's why, being thorough and being truthful, as they were saying, that's extremely important. And ladies, I want to challenge you with something, because chapter 13 kind of it speaks towards from a relationship perspective, right? The responsibility. I'm going to throw this at you, okay? The responsibility when it comes to inside of your relationship, the enhancement of it does fall on you. And the only reason why that I'm going to share that with you is just like what King was just saying a second ago. Like and what I was saying earlier, that we're kind of not built to really go into these matters of the heart thing. So we're not used to it. So we're walking into it just not really almost understanding our feelings. So you literally have to pull some of that information out of us. Now, how is that going to work for you? How is that going to help you? Well, here's the thing. See, when you were in high school, right, or college or whatever, and you played a sport, right, you go and get a coach, right? You listen to the coach, right? Okay? When you want to play an instrument, right, you go and listen to, the person that knows how to play the instrument, right? All right, when on your job, when you want to get promoted, you become an apprentice, right? Or go back to school, right? Or follow behind somebody. But when it comes to matters of the heart, you just think that you're the only person that can talk to yourself. And that's wrong. You cannot use the same brain that got you in the situation to get you out. Okay? Now, in the back corner, right? In the back corner is an amazing woman that I've known since 2010. This is before I even knew of, and I'm gonna share this with you because I didn't know that when I got out of Hampton, you couldn't tell me nothing. You know what I'm saying? I was making money, I was doing my thing. You couldn't tell me nothing, right? I knew what this thing was in life, right? All right, so then somewhere down the road, after I got my nose busted and my black eye and broken legs, metaphorically speaking along the way, I heard about this thing called mentors that you're supposed to have, right? And putting yourself inside of a circle of people who can coach you somewhere. So Miss Donna Bingham in the corner, her husband, when you read the manual, you'll see Porter Bingham is in there, right? That's somebody who is, from a business mentor perspective and actually spiritually as well, that's somebody who I go to. Okay? I call her and say, what's the next book I should read?
There you go.
Okay? I have to humble myself in order to say, okay, look, I ain't got it yet. Okay? And you're somewhere where I would want to be, right? So step one, humble yourself, right? Ladies, and say, okay, look, if you want to become married, well, you should be following behind somebody who is married, not talking to...
Happily married, though.
Yeah, happily, right? Not talking to the wrong person, right? You should, yeah, happily is a big difference, right? You know, if you want to get somewhere in business, you go get around business people that are ahead of you, right? If your finances need to be, you go. So, in matters of the heart, and let me tell you something, when it comes to being in a marriage, like, that's the biggest business decision that you can ever make. Okay, if you didn't know it, okay, all right, I'm letting you know right now. So why don't you have a coach in that area right now? Whether you are married or unmarried, right? You should have a coach spiritually, okay, financially, all right, business-wise. You should have coaches in these areas. There should be different people that you can go to and say, look, you know, and my wife is standing right there. There are times when she's like, did you call Donna yet? Did you talk to her? Because I don't think all your mentors know that you're doing X, Y, Z. But you know why? Because at least she knows I'm being coached, right? So ladies, I say to you, when it comes to workshops, when it comes to personal development, when it comes to you should be reading something right now. If you're not doing it, it's okay. When you leave here, yeah, okay, The Mastery of Love by Miguel Ruiz, okay? Talking about love, right? That's one book that you can read, right? When it comes to a relationship. Because here's the thing, if your relationship isn't right, like your money ain't right, nothing is right. Okay, no matter how much you think that you got it right now, it would be so much further ahead if you just coached yourself, got somebody to coach you in these areas, okay? So just want to kind of throw that out there. If you don't have one, yeah, that's the good one right there.
I'm kind of...
Just so you guys don't feel like I'm just skipping over y'all's questions. For whatever reason, we got a lot of questions in here on the whole cheating and being faithful thing. So I'm trying to skip around a little bit just so we can get some of the other questions in.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that cheating, I guess. Do men now prefer to be, okay, especially in Atlanta, watch this. Do men now prefer to be approached by women or prefer to be the aggressor in a new relationship?
That's good. That's good.
Okay, so particularly from an unmarried man up here. So would you rather be approached by a woman, or do you feel like, right? Am I going down the right street with that? Or do you feel like that you still need to be the one to step out there?
I just think it's just a time that we live in that women have become the aggressor, and it's not what I would prefer, because if I want you, I'm gonna come get you. So, but I will say this though, which is where we are with the impact of social media. I know with a lot of the young guys that I work with and mentor, I mean, just with social media is creating this menu of being able to connect with so many different types of people and preferably so many different types of women. It has created, I can see it with a lot of the young guys, it has created almost like a God complex to some of these young men, to where they are waiting on a woman to approach them, because I can tell my young guys constantly, like, bro, stop throwing it out. Oh man, it's 18-1. There's more women than there is men. I'm not gonna do this. Like, so what is happening? I say to a woman, if you're going by the scriptures, I mean, I know many of you know the whole story of Naomi and Ruth, and if you really have the understanding that Ruth was presented to Boaz. So if you are really waiting to be selected or being chosen, that happens in a moment while you in your space, your purpose working, and you're presented to him. So you don't have to chase no man. And that's just keeping my head. That was great, man.
That was awesome. So my answer is, I don't like when a woman approaches in terms of like says something out of her mouth and it's like, because to me, I'm like, okay, how many other dudes do you do the same thing to? I'm like, okay, great. However, I do appreciate a signal Give him a buying sign, something, a little over eye contact, a little. Oh, I'm sorry, brush up against. Oh, something like that. Now you giving me the signal, and I'm like, okay, now me as a not aggressive, but the aggressor, I'm going to now take that buying sign and decide if I want to do something with it, or whether we maybe business partners, friend, but at least you took the initiative, because I like what likes me back. Okay, I like what shows me. Oh, you like me? Oh, I like you too. Okay, it's just like social media. I'm not gonna call him out. But earlier, somebody else on the panel, I was talking to him earlier. He said that on social media, a young lady had liked some of his pictures, and then he was like, shoot, in Instagram land, I'm gonna like the same number back on her face. she like 10, I like 10 too. You know what I mean? So, sometimes you have to kind of be the first to get a signal.
I ain't know that. That's how that goes?
I ain't gonna say what say.
I just saw that. I ain't doing all that. Divide that by two.
So you know what the Bible says, he who findeth a wife findeth a good thing, right? So that means that it's interpreted that the man is looking for, that woman. Me personally, I'm the aggressor. I love going for it. But at the same time, here's the thing. Sometimes the rules, it's okay. There are exceptions to everything. And so if there's a woman that's interested in me, I don't find anything wrong with her approaching me, because here's the thing. I went out one time with a female, and we had a great time. And so when the check came, she took it. And I don't like that, because I pay. Like, this is what I do. But it made me stop and think, like, whoa, it's the first time that's ever happened. So when she did that, what she did was she separated herself from all the women that I've dealt with. It made me say, wow. Now, we went out after that. But at the same time, it was like, sometimes you guys got to think, what can I do to separate myself from all of these other women? Because guess what? They out there. So, some women don't agree with that. Some women are like, I would never do that. But see, you got to think outside the box. Get outside the box sometimes. There's nothing wrong with it. When I
Where's she at now? Where's she at now?
She ended up a little crazy. Yeah. But when I auditioned for different parts and different roles, one of the things that my agent and casting directors will tell an actor is to think outside the box. Because if you would see a script and in this particular line it says they were sad, 9 times out of 10 the actors that are going to go in there are going to try to cry. There's so many other different ways to communicate other than crying. How much more powerful would it be for me to just look at you and just look at you? Right? You know what I mean? So you gotta just think outside the box, guys. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so while we're on this topic, because I heard y'all bring it up, can y'all answer some questions about social media? Like, do you feel that in this day and age that social media dating is a thing? Like, are you guys into that? Is that appropriate? Are you okay with females approaching you through social media? And then what do you guys feel are the effects on, like, current relationships? Like, if you're already in a relationship, you're already married, already dating someone in a committed relationship, do you feel that social media affects that?
Social media is the devil.
I just told my husband this. I'm only getting on my husband because he just made a Snapchat account, and I said, "What you got Snapchat for?" No, I'm just kidding. I have Snapchat, so it's all good.
No, man, social media is the devil, man. I'm just being honest, and I say that because I can only imagine my man here. Single, active, good-looking guy. I just don't imagine what it's. I know what my DM's like, and I just imagine what his DM's like. He's on TV all the time, and I say that because it's such easy access, and it is a lot to manage. And I know for the people that like my assistant and my manager, like when I'm telling them, like, man, look what this lady said, we're laughing most of the time, like, man, I can't believe this lady said that. I'm like, ooh. And I'm like, it's a lot to manage. And I think that it really takes a mature man to be able to be in a place where, you know, for me, if I was not a speaker and doing what I do, I would not have it. Because it's too much to manage, because it's so much at your disposal. Like, you want a chick with curly hair, you hashtag curly hair chick. You want a chick, you hashtag this chick. Like that, I mean, even. Well, here's the thing, it's not so much that it's attracted to you, it's accessible. It's accessible. I mean, it's not so much, I mean, because you think about it, right? You can, I've come across some beautiful women profile, like they got about 500 followers, they doing their thing, and so you kind of engage, so it's never the woman, you know, that has like all of the followers, like, men like us, like, we're not going after those chicks, but it's like, it's a lot, and you think, right?
That's so disrespectful within itself. That is so disrespectful.
But I will say that it has changed the dynamic of dating and even marriages. I mean, because you think about it. I mean, you and your chick get into it, y'all argue, and you just be on there and scrolling, and you start liking, and I mean, it's a lot to manage.
Ain't nobody liking his photos.
Hey, no, it's fun. It's crazy because when you talk about from a social media aspect, you know, back in the day when us 40 plus, you know, we were out in the club.
34 plus.
Yeah, them two. Thank you, Harry. When we were out at club, you know, 559 or at, you know, 112 back in the day, the original Junk Jones. We would go up to somebody and have to ask them for their telephone number. You know what I'm saying? Free Nick Night at phone? What? I believe I'm still married after that one, boy.
Mike, Tasha.
Oh, Tasha looking? Oh, she watching? Okay, my bad. Wifey looking. Yeah, Sweet Nick 94 was a pleasant experience. But now when you go back and look how, you know, you really had to work, you know, you had to get the telephone number, you know. She gave you a number that started with 555, you was like, hold on, that don't look right, you know what I'm saying? But now it's so easy to say, hey, what's your social media? How can I follow you? Blah, blah, blah. And then it's so accessible, like we were just talking about. Like, the crazy thing about DMs now is when I wake up in the morning, I open up my DM, I see I got 2 DMs. It's from Joy ass. I'm like, I thought I had something popping. This Joy ass telling me, don't forget to bring this to the studio. I know now you have to,
I do
Joy, get out my DM.
My bad. It should be funny. You be seeing
All right, so
share.
I don't know if mine is as racy as everybody else's, but I think is social media is good on one side. It's a bit to manage, like he said, like King said on the other side. Several times I've gotten things in my DM, and then sometimes I don't even know they're there. You follow me? I might not check it, right? And this is a real life situation where Kim got my phone. She done opened my phone up, and she asked me, "What's this?" And it's the first time I saw it.
Of course, she didn't believe you.
But you can tell whether or not you read it or not.
Right. Well, here's the thing is when she's asking when that has happened, it's like, you know, if you're in a relationship where you know each other, then you're able to communicate with each other. You follow me? But if you're in a relationship where you don't know each other, that may turn into something it ought not to turn into. Right? But you see she's still sitting here.
Right.
So obviously,
It was still in bold.
obviously
It
it's
wasn't.
But the point I'm making to y'all is that at the end of the day, that's the whole point of the relationship. When you say understanding the man, you're gonna have a bunch of people coming at that man.
Yep.
Especially if you know you in a committed relationship. So understand that, and then be there for him. And what you'll find out is that he don't care nothing about what's coming into the DM.
Amen.
I need more claps for this
And I just wanted to follow up real quick when we talk about DMs and we talk about telephone and wifey checking the phone and all that stuff. If you don't give her a reason to check it, she's not going to check it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's those of us that are out there and you give your significant other a reason to check it because you said you was going to be home at 10, but you get there at 11:45, or you say you was at this place, but you were at that place, or you got that receipt in your pocket. That's why they check your stuff, because they don't believe you. If you don't give them that reason to do it, she ain't gonna do it.
You gonna be straight, cause I got other stuff to do. Ain't nobody.
To piggyback off of what King says,
DM be popping.
it can be very, very, very tough. Because let's just keep it real. I mean, you women, you guys look beautiful, respectable, but a lot of women, when you go on, Instagram, and you see the dots, you see the women who are trying to get attention. You see that. So it's like for a single man to go on there, it's literally like a playground. It really is. I mean, let's just keep it real. A lot of women want to blame men for being dogs, but if they're presented with that, I think you said something earlier, Elam, about, pretty much it's what's presented to you. So if you see this and that's all that you see, well, how can you really blame me when you're not even respecting yourself? This is what you're presenting to me. So you got to be a mature. Like, I know whenever I do end up in a relationship, like, I'm just going to have to click that button off completely.
Wow.
Seriously, because it's difficult if you know you hungry. The first thing you smell a steak, you ain't gonna walk away from it, right? But you really, really, really gotta be careful. And let me clear something up. I am single. I am definitely single. But a lot of women probably heard at the last forum that I was at, they heard, oh, so you enjoy dating, so that means you're a dog. That means you're sleeping with a bunch of women. Women perceive things totally different, and it's like, no, I never said that. One female, she said, well, why do you like sleeping around? I said, let me tell you, so I'll give you $100. Anybody who has recorded me saying I like sleeping around, and nobody couldn't do it.
That's right.
So I just wanted to clear it out for you guys. I enjoy being single, I really, really do. And when God presents that person to me, I will know.
Yes,
But until then,
yes.
have a good old time. Respectfully, though.
Until then.
We gotta get to the next question.
I'm sorry, I
That was dope.
All right, so we're gonna go. I told y'all, look, we only got through 2 or 3 of them things. Look, okay. So next question. I've noticed career single men are single until they are not. What was the one thing or things he saw in that woman to make him fully commit? So bottom line, So bottom line is they're basically asking, what makes us commit? I know I can answer this one as well.
Come on, Harry.
I'll tell y'all, for me, personally, when I knew my wife was the one, she didn't let me talk to her any kind of way. She made me respect her differently. All those things played a part because I've been around women where they just go with the flow. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm gonna go with the flow because you this or you that. But she had values and morals and a good Christian background. Those things came to my attention because number one, she wasn't gonna let me treat her a certain way. She wasn't gonna let me talk to her a certain way. And it's funny because we were talking about communication. That's one of the things I had to work on. I had to work on how I say things to my wife, or when we were boyfriend and girlfriend, because she don't do well with them. Rah, 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 rah. You know what I mean? All the loud stuff. So when I want to get through to her, I got to calm myself down and talk to her a certain way. So it's having those morals and values, respecting yourself, and like you said earlier, man, how do you separate yourself? Because there's a lot of women out here bad now. You know what I mean? Don't just think you're the only bad woman out here. It's a lot of dimes and 25 pieces out here. But 40 pieces out here. But for real though, it's like you said though. How do you separate yourself from the rest of the pack? That's just like in my game. When I get to the NFL, when you get to the NFL, everybody's good. Everybody can play. But how do you separate yourself to last long in the league? So my wife separated herself from hell. Pack.
A whole bunch of your
Yeah, it was a pack. But baby, I'm delivered.
Okay, so a man wants to chase you until you catch him. A man wants to chase you until you catch him.
That's good. That's good. Somebody write that down.
So,
break that down. Break that down.
So what that means is a man enjoys the chase, but a man don't want to. You have to figure out during that process what is it that is going to catch that man, and each man has something different. You know what I mean? So for him, it was her not, making her respect him, or making him respect her. For me personally, it's when I found my wife, which I'm divorced now, but those same qualities. It was when you said that she reminded you of your mother, my ex-wife. Same characteristics. So those characteristics are what attracted me. But there's some point in the relationship where it goes from, okay, the man showing you got to show him. Okay? So sometimes it's hard for women to understand that, is that it's your responsibility to show the man that you are worth him making those changes like he said that you did for him. So
Good.
All right, so this one's gonna be fun, right? Because I'm gonna tell you the truth. So before I got with my wife, like Savage said, I enjoyed being single. Trust, right? I was not. We went to school, Hampton University, and it was a beautiful place. Right? So I'm gonna be straight with you, right? So. What happened honestly for me was this, is I had tried to be, and Brother King said it before. He said that when a man feels like he can express himself in a space that he can trust, that's when he falling in love with you, just point blank. Because I know that was it for me. And so what happened is we had taken a trip from Virginia to Atlanta. Okay, and we rode in the car 8 hours, and we talked, literally didn't turn on the radio, right? But it got to the point where she asked me a real hard question. So at the time, Savage just said he wasn't messing with a lot of girls. I was, right? So I was trying to get as many as I could, right? Just being real with you. So I was having a ball. Right, I felt like the world was my oyster, and so she asked me how many girls I've been with, right? So I was like, okay, cool, right? Just being real, right? So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna tell her the number that I know, right? So I gave it to her raw, right? And she didn't judge me.
Amen. Good job.
You follow me? I gave it to her raw, and she looked like wasn't no big deal. it was that moment I knew I wanted to be with her.
Amen.
And I was done. That was the last time. So.
You doing all right today, Omar? You doing all right with her in the
She really needed to multiply that number by what, 6? Now it's crazy because who said divide? Oh, my bad. So it's crazy because when it's funny how you don't know when she is that one, because it takes you to look back, and I can still remember the exact day when I realized that my wife, at the time, my girlfriend, was going to be the one. You know, I grew up in Southeast DC, and unfortunately, my mom and we didn't have a real good relationship at an important part of my life. So she was out of my life, and then when I moved to Atlanta back in '87, I only got an opportunity to be with my stepmom for 2 years. So there was never that loving, motherly feeling that you had. And when Tasha and I started dating, it had to be 1993-ish or so, right before one of them good Freakniks. Damn, why I do that? But it was in 1994 when I'm standing on Bunker Hill Drive. Right, we could walk to Jelly Bean Skating Ring for anybody from Atlanta that know about the ATL in Southwest Atlanta. We're standing on Bunker Hill at my mom's house. And Tasha pulls up one day, and she brings me a bag of clothes, and she was just like, hey, I was at the finale at Rich's at Greenbrier, for those that remember finale at Rich's at Greenbrier, and I saw some stuff on sale I just thought that you probably would like or would need. And at that point, when she pulled that bag out of there, I was like, well, damn, it's another woman that cares for my well-being as much as any woman in my life. Because I wasn't a big, have a whole bunch of girlfriend type of things. I was like some of these other brothers out here. I was dating. I was dating. But at that moment, I realized that someone cared enough about my well-being, not just, if I could take her to Applebee's for that 2 for $20, or if I could get her hair done. She cared about me and said, hey, I noticed that them old-ass Guess shorts that you're wearing, you need some new ones. And it was at that point that I realized that this was the woman that I wanted to be with. You know what I'm saying? That's how it happens.
She was like, let me clean him up a little bit.
So,
get on my DM.
There was one other situation that I will never forget. I was out again, chilling. We were having lunch, and she said, let me see your hand. I was like, wow. So she took my hand, and she got like, I think she had a piece of paper or something like that, or a card, and she started going under my fingernail. She found dirt. I'm a clean brother. I'm gonna let you know that now. So I don't, you know what I mean? Like, but I was working on my car earlier, and you know what I mean? It just didn't get all the dirt out. But when she took my finger and did that, I said, "Where are you from?" Because a man needs
clean nails all week.
Right. And women, we need you guys. We need you guys. And so if there's always a space in which there's always arguments and we don't feel comfortable enough to come back home and talk and communicate, then we're going to find it somewhere else. We need you. When she did that, I was like, oh my God, this is good. And she moved away. I was mad. But it's simple things like that that's thinking outside of the box.
That's good. So we gotta clean your nails now.
I know, right? Everybody gonna be cleaning nails always, right? Shell, I'm good on that. I'm good on the clean nails. But let me throw something out there. A key point that he just threw in there about, and Michael kind of commented on it as well from a helpmate perspective. I think that really the answer to this is actually right in front of a lot of ladies, but because of what society tells you, you kind of feel like that you need to go into this different direction. I understand that now workforce has made it to where else you got to get out there and shake and move and do your thing, and you're like, okay, maybe 40, 50 years ago it wasn't like that, whatever. Let me dispel a rumor, all right? We want you to go out there and be as great as you can.
Amen.
We are not intimidated by you and your greatness. Stop thinking that. The wrong people are. The insecure people are. But you can go be great CEO, CFO, whatever. Go be great. And guess what? Because a confident, progressively moving man, he's going to be able to come right up next to you and be like, oh, okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first piece. I want you to understand that, you know, we're, number one, like I said, we're okay with you being great, but then also one of the chapters in chapter 3, it talks about, you know, do you see me? And what the men are basically doing, I only let the single men speak in that book because I wanted them to be able to speak out to the ladies who are currently unmarried to tell you, you know, what is he currently looking for. And Delonte Murphy, who is he's a music producer, whatever, I took his answer and broke it down into different ways. And one of the things that he said is that, you know, I'm out here, he's shaking and moving, music producer, doing his thing, and he's just like, okay, got girls want to make dinner for me, and, you know, all this and that, just show up at the door with the mac and cheese and the turkey and the green beans, like, oh, I was just in your neighborhood, and I just, but that's real life for him. He was just like, but the difference is that, what you have to understand is that he's doing his thing, you're doing your thing, right? And you figure out how to insert yourself into his world without being overly like all up in like, oh, you want to go to the family reunion, you just met him last month, like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't do that, because he's like, whoa, because that's what the last 10 tried to do. Let me get in with his mama, and his mama like me, then I'm good. Yo, back up. You know what I'm saying? Like, figure out, because you have a world, and he might not fit in your world. So you're just like, oh, because the last couple of guys you were with, you didn't make this type of money, or they didn't look this type of way, so you're like, oh, okay, I got these 1 or 2 or 3 things on my checklist, so let me go on after him. Meanwhile, your world says he doesn't fit in your world. And now 5 years later, whatever case it be, now you're married or whatever, and you're just like, this isn't working. It didn't work in the beginning. But you were looking at the wrong things. So, you know, you want to figure, that's one of the key pieces. And so when my wife and I met, you know, I was in a call center really just being very friendly. And if you're in a position of power and you're 21 years old and you have 100 people reporting to you and 80% of them are women, you're going to take advantage of that, all right? And that's exactly what I did, right? So, but the difference is that where she came in is that, you guys know that video game where you're playing ball, like you're shooting the basketball, and it counts your score up or whatever case it be. Okay, so this is how she separated herself. I was good at what I was doing, but I wasn't winning any awards at work, right? And she noticed that. And so that's what made me kind of notice her, because I was like, you doing your thing and I'm doing my thing, but I'm really over here doing a whole lot of my thing, right? But then the difference is that what she did was she said, okay, you know what, Elam, maybe you need to tell your manager to do this, to do that. And I tried it, and it worked. And I started winning awards. And everybody was like, Elam, you're such a great manager. They didn't realize I was actually taking her coaching in the meantime. And then the final separation, one night we was on a date, and I was playing a little basketball game. And before she came over, because we used to do like Jillian's, like I was an arcade person back then, right? So just shooting the ball or whatever, right? And so I was doing it by myself, and let's say I made 20 or 30 points, right? She came over, and she was just like, go, baby, go, do it. And I'm just like, I'm shooting. All of a sudden, I'm like 35, 40. Baby lane with 3-pointers, and I had like 60, 70 points. And we played it like 2 or 3 more times, and I kept playing because you know why? I wanted to hear her say, go baby, go. Do your thing, do your thing. I'm a words of affirmation person. I didn't even know what words of affirmation was then. But she was encouraging me, and I doubled my points. And I was like, she walked through, I think we went over and had like a hamburger or something afterwards. I was like, yo, she's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just got all these points. So when you want to find out, what your man's love language is, and figure out, can you provide it? Does he belong in your world first? And then figure out how to insert yourself into his world. That's what makes the difference between, people saying, okay, this is the one. That's what he finally did. This is the one. The same thing with Omar. This is the one. So, that's it. Hopefully some of the things that the men shared up here with that. But if you want to become the one, first of all, you got to go be the right one. And being the right one means walking inside of your purpose and creating your own world, so that when this other person comes along, along, you're like, does this person fit in? Y'all be trying to fit into somebody else's, and you haven't even found out your own world first. So let's keep going. I'm sorry. Got me started. All right. So we're gonna ask this one, and then we're gonna go to the audience. I know there's one or two audience questions over there. Are y'all enjoying this? Is this all right? Okay. Y'all gotta make sure, right? We gotta pay some bills. Make sure you get a drink, a fry, a burger, something, right? Make sure y'all do one of them.
So we've talked about, finding yourself, right? And for women to find, you guys have to find yourself. But here's the thing. And I'm going to do a test real quick. And I'm going to ask a person a question for the audience. You with the yellow, I think. How much money would make you happy for the rest of your life? Okay. Perfect example. And you're good. So I asked her, how much money would make her cool for the rest of her life? I could have a $10 million check in my pocket, but because she didn't know at that moment, she didn't know, right? A lot of women do know, or they have an idea. So you gotta know what you want. You gotta recognize what is it that you want, right? A lot of women want Bentleys. A lot of men want Bentleys. But do we have the money to put gas in that thing every week? So it's not just enough to know what you want. Then you got to look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you ready for what you want? Right? Because if you sitting there and you got a steak appetite, but you got a cheeseburger type money in your pocket, that's not going to work. So you got to ask yourself, am I ready for what I want? Do I match up for what I want? That's so important.
That's good.
That's exactly what I just said earlier.
All right. So, okay. What? Let's keep this at least PG-13 on this answer. What are some good ideas to keep a relationship/marriage fresh?
You gotta jump off the ceiling fan.
All right. All right. So, we're going to start with Miss Kierra and go on down the line, because this is, men or women can answer this.
Just for the record, I'm not jumping off the ceiling fan. I ain't doing that. Sorry, baby. I can just answer what I feel like keeps ours fresh. I feel like my husband still dates me. We make a point to, like last night, we went and had dinner and a movie. So I think that's really important with keeping it fresh, is that he still dates me. And the other day, I actually was supposed to take him out on a date. He's still mad at me. I was supposed to take him to the Martin Lawrence, what's the name of it? Lit is that tour? Lit as fuck tour. Yeah, I don't really curse, so it sounds funny when I say it. Anyways, the tickets got sold out, and he wanted floor seats. But anyways, I think he's still mad at me about that. I think it's important to really, I know what he likes. He knows what I like. I know that he's very adventurous, and he likes trying new things. So every now and then, we're tired of dinner and a movie. Honey, let's go on a vacation. So we just try to mix it up and do different and fresh things, and also things that we know, each other enjoy.
Good job, Aaron.
Groupon.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I'm gonna go in on this one too. The first thing I tell you is pay attention, right? Pay attention to that person, right? If you're not if you see that man being bored, not really wanting to do nothing, not really wanting to cater to you, it's probably because it's something you ain't doing for him. Just real talk, and that'll keep it fresh, right? If you paying attention, you see which way he's going, you see what he's trying to get accomplished. Fall in, right? Fall in. Do something do something to help him go forward. Sort of like what Elam was just saying when Michelle gave him a little advice on what to do and how to do it, right? And the next thing you know, he's doing well, and guess what? He's looking at you like, yeah, she bad, right? And that happens throughout the marriage. Throughout the marriage, you find yourself, gaining headway, just from doing different things. So for example, this past week we went over to Chateau Elam, right? So that was my thing, right? And we went there, but we went there to celebrate 13 years of marriage, right? So it wasn't the first thing, and I'm sure other people are doing other things. But my point is, I'm sure we'll do other things. The plan is to go all kinds of different places, but do something, right? Try to do something. Try to enjoy. Try to find a way to laugh. You know what I mean? And don't minimize simple things, because simple things are very, very, very good to people.
Amen.
At my age, I'm almost 50 years old. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. At my age, I'm almost 50 years old. So the key word in our marriage is Tasha watching?
Uh-huh.
Cialis. Y'all probably got that now. But no, y'all probably got it now? Yeah. Yeah, I saw you, yeah. You'll get there, my brother, trust me. But no, honestly, like now at this point, 20 plus years in the game of marriage, for us, it's quick vacations. Like a lot of times you think of vacation, they had to be 5, 6, 7, 8 days or whatever. Right. The one thing that my wife and I have mastered is the 3 to 4 day vacation. And with that vacation, we're able to do that at least 6 or 7 times a year. You know what I'm saying? So with that, and besides the fact that our youngest is now off in college at Auburn University doing his thing, and we're empty nesters, so now it ups that time for us to be more together. Because let's be honest, when you're married and you got kids, it's really not about you and the wife. Right. It's about you and the kids. Right. So now with them out of the house, and we can really focus on our relationship after 20 years with the kids, we can focus on us. So one thing that we have mastered is the 3 to 4 day vacation, and we take advantage of it at least 6 or 7 times a year, and it works. So now I can hang on the ceiling fans like Harry and his wife. Right. I need to do that. The yoga, yes, I need to try that. Even B King, come get this damn microphone before I get myself in trouble.
Okay. All right, so now what we will do is if there's a question that maybe you might have brewed up in your mind, all right? Somebody else has something? Okay. Question from the audience. We got some more up here, but I want to make sure we didn't miss any question from anybody? Question from the audience? Nobody?
I have a question.
Come on, Kim. We can hear you, Kim. Come on. They matching today, so they came in loving each other, all right?
Hello, everyone. I'm the wife of this guy right here. My name is Kimberly Finley.
Beautiful.
Oh.
Yes, Kim.
I have a question. So I want to talk about strategic partnerships. Outside of, I'm in HR, so I have a lot of strategic partnerships, but I believe strategic partnership is important when it comes to marriage.
Yeah.
So let's talk about culture fits. How, guys, sorry, there we go. How do you ensure that you are a right culture fit for a woman? Although we might look the same, you come from a different culture. I come from a different culture. So how then do we merge those cultures to become a culture in and of itself? So how, is my question, do you find or make yourself available to the right one to be a good culture fit?
Good
I
question.
think that's a great question. Because I think that's a great question. The reason why I'm going to say I think that's a great question is because
You need to go in a little bit more.
I think that was good. That was good because actually, I think that a lot of times people want to, completely match their where you came from with the other person's background, right? And when I say opposites attract, that there is a lot of truth behind that. So sometimes you guys could be from the same one, sometimes you could be from a different one. So even when it comes to my wife, I mean, my parents have been married 47 years, right? So people would look at me and be like, you're from good stock, right? Okay, yeah, whatever, right? So, and then my wife is from a single parent background, right? So, and let's just keep in mind, that's just the norm now. You don't find a lot of 40 and 50 background that folks been together forever, whatever, because it takes work and people don't want to do that work anymore. So, I would say that one of the things that's worked for us is that first thing I would put out there is you having the ability to have an open mind and being able to grow together. Because those of you who are in a relationship right now, if you're married right now, where you are right now, even how you want to feel and give love right now is going to change. Okay, so you could be, like in the beginning, my wife was gifts, right? And it seems like she was gifts when I was at like the brokest point. Like when I couldn't give her anything, then she's like, I want this, and then I'm just like, and I came from a background whereas, there's five boys in my family, and so, Christmas, middle class family, but Christmas was like, we might have one gift to share between the two of us, so I grew up like that, so I was okay. So I wasn't the name brand person. Like I think the first time I ever even had Armani was she bought it for me. Like I wasn't even a name brand person. So she comes on with these gifts, and I'm like for real? Like I have to buy you something? And I was making decent money. I wasn't cheap. That wasn't my background, right? But I had to grow, and it took like 3 or 4 years into our marriage before I even heard about the love languages. Because all before then, I was like, why is you all up on this money stuff? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even understand it. But now she's transitioned. She's more of like a quality time person. Now, when I started giving her stuff, then she wanted to switch it up, right? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, but here's the thing. But you have to have a mind. Yeah, you could have 2 or 3, right? But you have to. So the first piece that I would want to throw out there is how do you having that ability to have that mind to know that you guys can kind of grow together. But there's certain pieces, and I'll throw this particularly to women. You have this thing called discernment. And I think a lot of times y'all overlook that because you hear that, and it don't be in month 3 or year 3. You heard that in day 3. Like, this dude is not going to work. But you kept going with it and kept trying to fit. And Trey Barnett in the manual, he says, when you hear that voice, stop trying to stick a square peg in a round hole. It's not going to work. And get out then, before the heart and you are started having sex and all that, and now you got all these other things pulling you in different directions, right? So when you hear that voice, I call it the Holy Spirit, we can call it discernment, we can call it whatever you want to, but, when you hear that spirit, you need to pay attention to it, because it's saying your worlds don't fit together, okay? Does that make sense? I hope that kind of answers your question a little bit. Anybody else?
So the first part is the whole thing. Elam.
Yeah, really, you can't even
answer that. No,
I can't answer.
No, you
I
can't
can't go in.
Look, she
I'm going to
No,
bed.
you can't.
Yeah,
She can hear your answer later. Let's keep it safe.
Your ass gonna be on the futon tonight.
Thank you, brother.
Yes. Here for you.
You are your brother.
So,
Yes, I am.
so I think if I understand your question, it's kind of like making your culture fit with someone else that you have met to make sure that it's a mesh. Okay. So we can't change the DNA of our past, right? Who we are is who we are. We are who we are because of what we went through. So I think when meeting, my experience has been, meeting someone, it's not so much to try to change anything about me. It's just to see that, opposites kind of just attract. So if my culture has been totally different than someone else's, it's kind of cool. It's interesting because of the fact that now we have this dialogue. It's a beautiful thing. So it's just more so allowing God to kind of and just like you said, Elam, if you just listen to that voice, if God is telling you this person is not the one, listen to her. Because I think a lot of times women think that they can change a man because I got that good stuff. My stuff be like everybody else. You know what I mean? Or, I'm just different. But if a man is showing you who he is, you gotta look and you gotta pay attention and accept that man and say, you know what, do I want to move forward or not? And I think that's where a lot of things kind of like, a lot of women get broken hearts when they could have avoided it because of the fact that, he does this, that, and the third. But that one little thing is that thing that separates the whole situation. But you don't want to listen to that because he can cook, he can clean, he can do other things. He can lay it down in the bed. He can do all of these other things.
That's real.
Listen, let me tell you, I've heard women, talk about men. They say, he ain't nothing, but he can. I mean, I've literally heard women say that, and in my mind, I'm like, is that all it is? You know what I mean? Like, every man should be confident that he can lay it down, but at the same time, that can't be the only thing. And when you put that up there on a pedestal, then you can't get mad because this man is saying somebody else is doing other things because you put that up on a pedestal. You did that. So.
When to your question, I think we have been destroyed because growing up, we always learned that marriages or relationships were 50-50.
Yeah.
That's not the case. Relationships are 100-100. And it took me a minute to understand that back in the day because, when we first got married, my wife is an interior decorator. So she loves going to Home Goods, TJ Maxx, and Ross. So on a Saturday afternoon, if we go to Home Goods, TJ Maxx, and Ross, we go there, but we went to the one in Buckhead, but she wants to go to the one in Cartersville, or she wants to go to the one on Bear Parkway. To myself, I'm saying, well, goddamn, didn't we just go there? Didn't we freaking just go there? But on the flip side, when it's Sunday and 1 o'clock and Matt Ryan is lining up and Harry Douglas is in the slot, and he hit Harry on a goddamn slant. Oh, that was Atlanta. My bad, Harry. Hey, that was ATL all day. My bad. But he hits him on a slant and takes it to the house. She's like, didn't you just see the game last week? So there's a point to where when we talk about 50-50 in relationships, that's not what it's about. There has to be a point to where both people are giving 100%. So I had to learn that there's a difference between the Home Goods, Ross, and TJ Maxx and Buckhead versus the one that's in Cartersville. They got different stuff. I did not know that. And she had to realize that if my man Harry Douglas is lining up in the Georgia Dome back in the day against the Carolina Panthers, it's totally different lining up against Harry Douglas on a Monday night in Green Bay.
They're different out of state too.
All right. I think this one is definitely because it speaks to this room. So I want to throw this out here. Question here is, why is it so hard to get, and I guess we can throw this to the men that's up here, but if we look in this room, I would say that if we took the panel off, this is probably about 90% women, probably 95%. And so the question that's thrown up here is that why is it so hard to get men to come out to events such as this one? I'm gonna. Well, let me throw it out. I'll finish up.
And the reason why I think it would be good because you do a lot of motivational speaking or whatever. So when it comes to those, why is there a lot of times that men don't come out to events to move to the next level?